Yo, I'm Matteo, and this is Chisel This. Today we will be analyzing the newest epic rap battle of history, Ketchum versus Charles Darwin. As you know, I also helped them create this battle, and I'm excited to talk about what input I had, and how they incorporated Pokemon finally into their series. Cam from Video Game Rap Battles also decided to join the battle of writing epic rap battles of history. And finally, our worlds collide. I never thought I would be able to make a Chisel This video about Pokemon and epic rap battles of history while sitting in front of my Pokemon wall all at the same time. It's all coming together and it's making my head hurt, but we're here. Finally, my backdrop is relevant for once. You may be wondering, is it just a coincidence that I got to work on epic rap battles with the Pokemon rap battle when the second half of my channel is all Pokemon-infused rap music? Well, my joking answer is no. Over a year ago, I devised a plan to start analyzing their work, to get their attention and smuggle my way into the writing staff, in anticipation of an eventual Pokemon rap battle, so that I could sit here today and tell you just that. But the real answer is, maybe. They considered reaching out to me in the past, so it seemed like the time was right to include both me and Pokemon in an epic rap battle of history. And the time is right. It's the 20th anniversary of Pokemon, and myself of course. Pokemon Go was a huge phenomenon this year. Pokemon Sun and Moon got released the same week as this rap battle, which is expert timing considering that main series Pokemon games only come out every 3 to 4 years. It was now or never. This battle turned out really well, all except for one part.
There's this dude that makes critical reviews of the rap battles. They're really scathing.
Yo, it's Mat4yo.
They're very well made. I'm curious to see what he does with this one. I'm sure he'll find something to not like the way I'm stating.
And he's right, Peter's poised posture proves his spine indicates an abnormal lateral curve. Given such diagnosis of scoliosis, I suggest he practice the neutral spine position in order to keep his spine and his lines straight. I do believe I'm qualified to chisel such a sculpture because he told me I would. And yeah, that was pretty much all that was wrong with the battle. Alright, see you guys next time. No, in all seriousness, I want to thank you guys for the shout out that you gave me in the Epic Rap Battles of History behind the scenes video. Your words were very kind, and if anything, my whole family thinks I'm mildly talented now, so I have you to thank for that. Alright, let's actually start analyzing this battle now. Now, Charles Darwin is famous for inventing and studying the concept of evolution. We know that the Pokemon franchise has put a spin on the term evolution, and applied it to the process that Pokemon undergo when they level up and gain a new form, a new look, a new type, a new ability. This concept of leveling up and changing form within their family tree is called evolution. We have to understand that evolution is the whole world of one character, Charles Darwin, and just a small aspect of a much greater world of Pokemon for Ketchum. If there's any flaws in this matchup, it's in the constant positive reinforcement of fan suggestions. Ketchum versus Charles Darwin. We've been seeing that since the series started. Oh, evolution, that would be cool. Pokemon's most popular character is Ash, and it's not Professor Oak, even though the professor does study evolution. Ash, if anything, is a novice at evolution, since he refuses to let his Pikachu evolve. But those matchup flaws can be turned around for the better if done right. This matchup can still be pulled off, but it needs to be in a way that acknowledges the rest of the world of Pokemon, as to not deprive that character from its fair shake in the series. I warned them of this, and they exceeded my expectations by finding even more things that both characters had in common. Now, in an effort to organize this episode, there will be two main segments. First is a general rundown of the list that Cam and I sent Nice Peter for the most important things to include about Pokemon, which also included some fan-base generated points, like the Generation 1 glitches, and the fan theory of Professor Oak having an affair with Ash's mom.
Your mother.
Second, we are going to run through the whole battle, start to finish, and comment on every important part of it, judging how well they represented the characters and the worlds of both sides. Let's start with the list. Getting down to the brass tacks of what an epic Pokemon rap battle should include, we acted as that Pokemon fact giver and fact checker for the rest of the writing staff. What is important enough to mention? What is too important to leave out? And does this or that stay true to the series? We laid the groundwork for a Pokemon fan's biggest wish list, and shipped it off to the big ol' Santa Claus at the ERB studios. This battle coming out was like Christmas. This ranged from the obvious things like catchphrases, gotta catch 'em all, to some important things that just can't be found through a casual Wikipedia search. For example, it is widely joked that Ash Ketchum has remained 10 years old for the last 20 years of the franchise's existence. Every time a new generation starts, we are reintroduced to Ash Ketchum, the 10-year-old. Throughout these generations, Ash's goals remain the same, catching them all and becoming the champion. Well, he's only caught 1/10 of them all, and he has infamously never won a championship, only going as far as second place most recently in a match that we all thought he could have won. Now on the topic of evolution. I thought it would be important to make a clear distinction between the real-life version and Pokemon's version of evolution. Evolution in Pokemon is what real-world experts would call metamorphosis, or just shape-shifting. Pokemon simplified the concept, bottled it into a training system, and called metamorphosis evolution. So clearly there's a lot of differences from reality, but they use that word to sum it all up. I almost snuck a line in there about this, but we'll get to that later. Charles Darwin is a professorial figure. Ash takes orders from professors every time he travels to a new region. That sense of seniority needed to be instilled from Darwin, and they made sure it happened throughout the whole battle. We also gave them a list of what Pokemon are most popular, just in case they were wary about including any. Our list went like Pikachu, Mewtwo, Charizard, Magikarp, Jigglypuff, Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle, Slowpoke, Snorlax, Mew. They actually added Butterfree and Lapras to my pleasure, so good job on that. Just know that everything from in-game flavor text to Ash valuing friendship over physical fitness was brought to the table for the rest of the ERB writing staff before finalization. Now, let's take a step into the small grass and encounter a new epic Pokemon rap battle. First, do you hear that piano? They built this beat from the ground up to imitate the beginning of the original Pokemon theme song. This melody gives a whole new life to the matchup and sets the mood for entering the world of Pokemon in the same way that the theme song set the mood for entering the world of Pokemon in the cartoon series. And it doesn't end there. They incorporate cartoon Pokemon, the grassy field from Pokemon Go in the backdrop, the Z's on Ash's face and the fingerless gloves, and much more. You can clearly tell that they did not go half in referencing Pokemon to its fullest extent.
Darwin wants to battle, doesn't seem like a fight, but this should be fun. I get to catch the ghost type.
I know I'm credited as a special guest writer, but there are 3 specific video aesthetics that I described for Nice Peter that received some sort of visual variation in the final product. It's absolutely thrilling to see these ideas come to life, and this was one of them. I'm sure there was a general consensus that we should include the battle format somewhere, but this was one of the things that I made sure they included. The next 2 are a little bit more specific to my style. Regardless, after getting a hold of the final audio, this is what I told Peter to do. It would be a good nod to the series to display the beginning of a battle right after the begin title card. The opponent, Darwin, would be in the top right corner facing the bottom left, and the defendant, Ash, would be in the bottom left corner, seen over the shoulder facing the top right. I think it would be humorous for the characters to slide across the screen for the first part of the line, but have Ash break the 4th wall and turn around to face the camera.
This should be fun. I get to catch the ghost type. Got the highest speed stats. Drop reps, lightning back.
Here we see Ash doing that signature hat flip. Made sure we got that in there. They even added the green energy lines that appear in the background when Ash is throwing a Pokeball. And that eye.
Open my pockets and go.
Did you see that eye?
Drop reps, lightning back. Open my pockets and go. On your ass, 'cause I'm Ash.
I've never physically reacted to an epic rap battle before, but I literally fell backwards when I saw that eye. It literally, like a gust of wind came at me. One of the coolest things Epic Rap Battles has ever done, hands down. Just as this battle is starting, we literally zoom into this character, and we see that lovable cartoon spirit that's still inside. This is just a human representation. He's stepping out of his realm to come do this battle, and he's gonna go right back to where he left off. It's so hard to capture a cartoon character in human form, but when you see that eye come at you in the same way it did in the the cartoon show, that's as much Ash as it gets right there. Absolutely exhilarating experience for Pokemon fans. And seeing this cutscene taught me something. Complicated visuals and simple lines lend themselves to one another. If so much was happening at once, you would miss at least part of it. By putting in some surface level Pokemon jargon, ERB captures different senses at different times throughout the whole battle. Sometimes it's all visual, sometimes you're hooked on only the lyrics, and sometimes it's both. And they keep that ebb and flow consistent throughout the whole battle.
Cause I'm Ash, and that's A to the shush. I don't care how many beetles and butterflies you squirt. Earthworms can't beat these magical beasties.
Drawing the comparison between magical and mythical Pokemon creatures and real-life boring animals was one of the advantages we could give to Ash. Darwin might appear to be a super scientist, but Pokemon have these natural superpowers that Darwin will never find by analyzing regular old barnacles.
Your shit-talking mouth is the origin of feces.
Feces.
Candy wraps, Reese's Pieces.
I don't want to dwell on the Reese's Pieces line too much, because it is one of the two things that I strongly suggested they either remove or change before finalization, but they asked me to remain honest in my review, and I told them what I felt before they did it, and I'm going to repeat it to you now that they've done it. So just to make the comment, Peter described that line in his rebuttal to my criticism as catering to one specific sense, the ears, while it does ignore that sixth sense that we all have, the mind. Well, at least I have it. My brain knows that that line is irrelevant to both sides. But the thing is, Pete's brain knew that too. He wanted that to stay there, to be a smooth, rhythmic transition to continue the rhyme scheme. And that's how he justified it. And you can argue with a justification, but it is justified. I do forgive it, however, because they replaced the pole for the basketball net with a Alolan Exeggutor. And I wasn't even around to tell them to do that at this point of production. That's how you one-up the fan base, to prove you're just on par as they are with the modern pop culture of the franchise. But like that Reese's Pieces line, I did suggest they replace it with, "My 6 balls are a lady's dream team. In this ecosystem, I'm the dominant species." But they pace these raps in a way that allows viewers to grasp it all at once. If you're laughing too hard from the line prior to it, keeping the next one simple makes sure that the viewer doesn't miss anything on that start to finish view. It's not something that I would consider doing in my own personal work, but I understand the reasoning, and I think it works better for ERB than it would for, say, something that I made. It's a different style, of course, but it's all welcomed in the public discourse of what's best to create for a wide audience. It's great to discuss what kinds of aspects that you can include to please the most amount of the most diverse people. Think of the Electoral College.
The train, I turn to Pikachu, but when I need a weak verse, I choose you.
So the first draft did not have an "I choose you" reference. So I suggested that they change the phrase, "You'll get the broom quick," to "You better choose quick."
So you'll get the broom quick.
Pete really liked that, but instead they went and changed Ash's first verse finisher in order to fill that void. I think it works as a good transition, and an easy enough to get spin on the slogan, but it did replace one of Cam's lines. Sorry, Cam. Notice how Team Rocket spins away into the next transition. That was something we emphasized should be included if Team Rocket was going to make an appearance. And it really submerges you into the world of Pokemon even further. You get that sense that, wow, they actually might have watched some Pokemon before making this. I'll also take this time to comment on how they incorporated the Pokemon. I think they work as hand-drawn cartoons, because they don't try to be anything else. They're not poorly made 3D models. I warned them not to do that. They own their design. I told them it has to be either a human in costume that owns itself, or a consistent form of animation. One or the other has to be embraced fully in order for it to seem natural. Like I always say, you can't go half in and half out. And it worked here. Now, just for the record, this was the first battle that I helped them write, and the one that I helped them write the most. So there was a lot for me to learn early on. One of the first things that Peter told me is that this process is very transformative. I didn't underestimate those words, but it did surprise me how much ideas, lines, and structure, and specifically even the instrumental changes. All of these aesthetics are restructured and reformatted to fit the mood of the final product. And this line right here is a perfect example of that. Take a look at how I envisioned Darwin's start of his first verse, and how they modified that in the final product.
Hello there, welcome to the world of reality, where animals are merely benefactors to humanity, not family. This is the cycle that we are born from, and I'm the next professor you're taking orders from.
Hello there, welcome to a world intellectual minds do groundbreaking work.
So here's what I said. In this 4-bar sequence, Charles Darwin imitates the role of Professor Oak in the very first Pokemon games, Pokemon Red and Blue. In those games, the first thing you encounter when you press New Game is an image of Professor Oak in front of a white backdrop where he says, "Hello there, welcome to the world of Pokemon." I think it would be highly effective to have Darwin imitate this, replacing the word Pokemon with reality. This not only is to establish authority over Ash, but is also a way for ERB to introduce the world of Pokemon in the same way that the very first Pokemon games introduced the world of Pokemon to its very first audience. In these lines, Darwin highlights the primary contrast of their worlds, fantasy and reality. He pokes the first of many flaws that Darwin proves he's qualified to find. Being a naturalist, a realist, and a scientist, he categorizes this fantasy as an absurd deviant from reality. A reality where animals serve a purpose to be below humans and to be used by humans. That's not what they do in Pokemon, of course. As you know, Pokemon are friends. In the real world, animals are benefactors to humanity. Some of them are our playmates, like household pets. But that's the way Pokemon treats all animals. In the real world, animals provide a source of food, of nutrients. Darwin explains this, saying that animals are part of a cycle where humans raise and kill them for their survival. They took that concept and that visual aesthetic and changed it to fit the flow of the battle in its living format. He still says, "Hello there, welcome to a world," but he says called Earth. And then he explains how Earth is different from the Pokemon world. He closes that book on Ash's face and says, "This is no storybook. This is reality. Throw this book away. Let's talk face to face in the real world." And this line still has the effects that I just described, but it boils it down and saves real estate for more things to be included. Seeing something that I came up with and envisioned brought to life by epic rap battles of history is not only exciting, but relieving. And knowing that I played a role in helping so many people enjoy themselves and catching that reference both visually and audibly in a way that it might not have been if I wasn't included. It really gives you perspective on how even the smallest things that you do can make such a big difference to so many different people. That's why I'm grateful to be part of this process, even if it's from the far removed side of a computer screen.
If you're looking for the fittest, I'm a natural selection. You're so ineffective, you couldn't even turn a lemon.
So there were a lot of different ways to incorporate the mandatory 10-year-old line, but how many times have people done it using the actual number 10? Why not break the mold and put a spin on that idea and actually change the number, but still make it mean the same thing? That's what they came up with for the Eternally 10 reference, and I honestly wouldn't have wanted it any other way. It's an excellent insert line, effective use of in-game flavor text, and a deviation of what we're expecting to hear, the number 10. Instead, you couldn't turn 11, which already implies that he's 10, but it adds another diss on top of it. Great outside-of-the-box thinking to make that happen.
It's just not hard hitting the numbers. You're soft like a jigglypuff.
Like I mentioned earlier, they include some lines of breathing room to establish a presence in the room, to let people collect themselves and have enough time before they get hit with the next joke, creating a rising tide of moods, instead of having the static plateau of excitement. An indigo plateau. I get that, because the stakes will never rise if they're always stagnantly high. It's different from what I prefer, of course, so I tried to sneak in some more references. I thought it would be possible, considering the lack of a championship reference, to say, "I'm sailing the championship that you never won, you little grunt, you're soft like a jigglypuff." Or maybe there was no championship reference, because Ash has no championship title. Whoa.
If you got no Game Boy, so you'll get the room quick.
The Game Boy line is super effective because Ash literally has no Game Boy, unless you consider Pokemon Puzzle League. Ash is never seen, let alone made playable in any of the main series games. We had to get that reference in there, because saying you have no game is like rap terminology, it works perfectly.
I'm a master of a naturalist. What a glimpse without class, all the crap on your laughable list.
Here's where we see the comparison to Darwin studies and Ash's Pokédex progress. Tied with a 4-syllable rhyme scheme, this sequence is decorated with tension, and that sense of seniority that I felt Darwin had to emit throughout the whole battle.
My research reversed the first word to the church. You measure your worth by the sales of your merch.
So this was a fun jab at Pokemon's financial success, and also makes the important point of reasonable meaning within the universe, and longevity of legacy. Darwin was clearly important enough to be posthumously included in this rap battle, so he highlights the difference between ephemeral monetary success and eternal personal success. Wealth is calculated differently by all different people, and it really is fabricated with the snap of a finger. I am wealthier just by making this video, because to me, wealth is having people listen to me and having a chance to create a conversation and being involved in projects like this. To me, that makes me wealthy. You have to understand that wealth is not tied to a share of a finite pool of money. It's not a number. For some, wealth is manifested in dollars. For others, it is reflective on their impact on the world. All in all, both amount to an accumulation of happiness, with one arguably more honorable than the other.
Yo, real quick. This dude spent 8 years studying barnacle dick. Kick it.
Okay, this was the second and last thing that I strongly suggested they either remove or change. And this is what I told them. I think this is a pretty funny gag. You can laugh at it. But I did expect something much more dramatic to come out of actually stopping the instrumental. I expect like Kanye West to stop the instrumental and say, hold up, Darwin had the best lines of all time. The issue I see here is that it's too playfully crude. So I guess if you want to look at it in the timeline of lines, you can say, Darwin says, you measure your worth by money, I am more valuable. Ash says, stop the beat. Hold on. You spent 8 years studying the genitals of a barnacle, and you want to say that I'm not worthy? And looking at it, it does make sense, but I still don't see the justification for stopping the instrumental. And that's just to play devil's advocate here. I'm just giving you a voice of dissent. I told them that at the expense of less gag humor, you could consider putting something here that bears more fruit under the surface. But what's it really about? Are we trying to make people laugh, or are we trying to dig up more fruit? That's something that is subjective. I think that's for you to decide. I don't think it kills the battle at all. But like I said, it's worth considering. It's a part of the battle. It's what they envisioned. That's all. Something I noticed was not included was a joke about Homo sapiens. I thought it would be fun in the same kind of way if they replaced that line with, yo, just in case you didn't know, this dude spent 5 years with seamen studying homos.
Yo, real quick. This dude spent 8 years studying Reese's Pieces.
I think that I would have been able to spend a lot less time on it if they just kept the beat going, maybe even changed it to some kind of cooldown segment. Here's where I think the real criticism for that line lies. It works as a gag, but I feel like it's too out of character for the 10-year-old cartoon Ash Ketchum, and it might turn some people off. And I told them this. I said, this battle right now is lacking a lot of Ash's personality. I think that when I saw the video, my opinion on that changed, but in context of the lyrics, this is what I had told them a few weeks back. A lot of Ash's character is being funneled through the rap battle culture and personality. I think that's fine to the point where we have it's half Ash and it's half rapper. You know, we can kind of go back and forth between that. That's kind of what the rap battles does with everybody. However, if that scale really tips in favor of the rapper, we start losing Ash and seeing more of this crude character that merely has Pokemon strings tied to it. Who is it anymore? And that's kind of where I went right and wrong in the way that I gave them lines. I feel like they had a lot more to work with in my ideas and my concepts that I gave them rather than the actual lines that I wrote, because I tried way too hard to stay true to that character of Ash. Whereas they were kind of rapper weighed down more and Ash kind of fell out of it, I was Ash weighed down more and rapper kind of fell out of it. And I think that it wound up being somewhere in the middle, and that's what we needed out of this. But I think moving forward, I would really try to search for that balance the way that they did in the final product, than trying so hard to maintain the actual origins of the character.
You think I'm impressed by your boat trip? You're the most annoying thing on a bagel since flea.
I don't know if this was intentional, but that horizontal black bar that moves in the background is representative of the way that you encounter trainers in the new Pokemon Sun and Moon games. So that was pretty cool, and you know, repurposing the term beagle is a nice touch as well.
Glitchy old man best let that I see. Set sail like Galapagos, suck on D.
Here's another in-depth Pokemon reference that you couldn't stumble upon just regularly. Well, hey guys, there's probably some good opportunity to make some glitching jokes about the Pokemon game. Originally, the line said, "You're bugging, it's the old man glitch disease." And I liked that originally because the term bugging marked the 5th instance that they reference a Pokemon type in the rap battle, whether they realize it or not. They referenced fighting, ghost,
Ghost type.
electric,
Rock rap lightning fast.
ground,
Do groundbreaking work.
and this would have been bug. I think the line makes more sense with the way that they changed it though.
Look, Mighty Morphin Michael Vick, your animated slave fights make me sick.
I love Darwin's misappropriation of video game terminology. As Mighty Morphing is obviously from Power Rangers, he's kind of taking that stance where he's above, and he's like, I don't play video games, I've heard Mighty Morphin once, you're probably one of those Power Rangers, aren't you? Old people do this all the time, and it's hilarious.
I battle a foe from so simple a beginning. I'm not Charles Sheen, but I am Darwin.
Now here they use a Darwin quote to set up for the big punchline. However, this is where I had the idea to include a worldly comparison line about metamorphosis. What you call evolution is mere shape-shifting. I'm not Charles Sheen, but I am Darwining. Of course, the two lines are kind of non sequitur, they don't carry into each other, but that line would have been powerful nonetheless. So at this point, I thought the battle was lacking a battle explanation line. So far, we see a contrast between the creatures of each universe and the universes themselves. However, the primary reason for this matchup, being evolution, is lacking representation on a comparative scale. We have Darwin always talking about real evolution, but there is no reference to the in-game mechanic of evolution and its flaws.
And if that's true, then nature is cruel. Cause the only thing you're winning is your cousin's gene pool. You lost 3 children while they were still small. TB and scarlet fever, gotta catch 'em all.
Alright, I love these bars. I love when they make left field references to science for a rather simple incestuous sex joke. Man, the tongue twister today. Also, Gotta Catch 'Em All is a brilliant repurposing tool. Sure, you've heard the jokes before on the internet, Gotta Catch 'Em All having to do with diseases, but this line is one of the few that ties both sides together. It's one where you can't apply it to any other character, from any other character. It's a unique bridge devised by ERB uniquely, and it's beautiful.
It took millions of years for mankind to evolve. Now they're hunched over cell phones playing with your balls.
This is my absolute favorite part of the battle because it's where they took my third big idea and brought it to life. Here's what I originally told them about this sequence. When Darwin says this, I envision a cinematic scene where you see Darwin imitating the poses from The Ascent of Man, where multiple Darwins appear in order of posture evolution. However, right as soon as we reach the tall, formidable man's pinnacle and an upright Darwin, the screen starts moving to reveal more phases of evolution. These phases instead are represented by multiple versions of Ash, where each consecutive iteration is devolving. For example, the first can be Ash alone, then Ash looking down at a Pokeball in his hand, then Ash hunched even further with a Game Boy, and then Ash hunched even further, swiping his phone to insinuate he's playing Pokemon Go. To comment on how older people think technology is absolutely ruining a generation. And while they just used one human model as the ascender and descender, it's a stunning visual, and it means so much more beneath. Darwin is decrying the mere existence of Pokemon, suggesting the irony of using a concept that Darwin discovered to reverse the positive effects of that concept. To rephrase it, Pokemon has risen in popularity, drawing more people down to their phones instead of up to the outside world.
Over centuries, mankind has grown to be upright. Today they need a Pokemon Go, get a life, hunched over, touching balls with a phone in their hand. So I hypothesize this fight is descent of a Pokemon.
And this is where Darwin really seals the deal on who objectively owns the term and the definition for evolution. While Ash's personal journey is eternal, Darwin's outward effect on humanity is eternal. Ash's achievements, while rare, are introverted. Darwin's achievements are the human race's achievements. Darwin has the ability to produce a retroactive look on society and history, where Ash is close-minded in the present. Ash restarts every single generation, turning back the clock to devolve to his 10-year-old state. Darwin's theory is that we get better through generations. Generations of Pokemon versus generations of humanity. We're Generation Y, our parents are Generation X. Nature picks and chooses the traits that make mankind a master race over animals. And I wrote a rap version of this to try to explain it to them.
On the origin of species, we grow as a population, revising but not restarting as we move through generations. These survival traits are nature's fate to pick and choose, and I see an endangered species when I Pikachu. If the Ketchum was your real test, then you scored an F. What you call evolution is short of metamorphosis. Now the force of biology is how we reproduce. It's called natural selection, and I won't choose you.
And while Ash keeps recycling himself, hindering the process of time and his world's evolution, Darwin died and became immortalized as a contributor to the forward progression of time and humanity. Darwin accepted his fate and played his role in human evolution. He's painting Ash as someone who's too selfish to even let himself be part of that, so he remains in this eternal state where time doesn't even move. And evolution is absolutely hindered in the sense of what real evolution actually is. Therefore, only Pokemon evolution exists to Ash. Now, who needs to know this to write a rap battle? You don't. But that's just the way that I think, and that's why you come to watch this. And seeing that mindset sneak into this battle just a little bit adds just the right amount of seasoning to make this rap battle one that I can admire and enjoy. I hope you can too, and I hope that I helped put it into perspective so you can watch it over and over knowing how much goes into it, how much thought was behind it, and what it really means on a greater scale. That concept that I just explained is carried throughout the whole battle and is indicative of a difference of culture between our two characters. It's the perfect climax to build up to the real reason that we're here, to laugh.
And it was hard losing my daughters and their brother, as hard as the wood that oak gave your mother.
Mic drop. So what do you think? Who won? Did you like what ERB came up with in adding the world of Pokemon to their massive collection? Do you think we helped? Check the description for more ERB behind the scenes and more Pokemon, including my new album of 12 metaphorical Pokemon rap songs that take the same deep approach to real-world topics that you just heard me describe. I also have a new Pokemon rap to celebrate the new Sun and Moon games coming this week, so stay tuned, and more down into the next month, including a special winter Pokemon song. I'm Mat4yo, and that's all for you today.
Let's have a look-see over here.
The towering mountain mounted by spears.
Let's go.
Wait, guys, you see my hair? I really need to comb before we go up there.
Here the sky turns purple.
I gotta write this in my journal.
Let's act like Paragon season today, cause we sure did squirm a damn long way.
Hi, kids! Do you like Cyrus? Here, we're gonna meet...